to cut on this thing. Surely hope somebody didn't weld that on there. Well, it's nice to see that's not welded anyhow. I'm gonna have to let her soak for a little while. Alright, so it's been a couple of weeks since I've started tearing into this gearbox on this thing, so it's been pretty cold, got a little bit of snow, been pretty busy with everything else too. So I'm going to try to get this seal replaced today, get this project finished up. The tiniest little snap bearing holes I've ever seen. Well, this seems to be the way mechanical jobs go for me. I ground these down to be small enough to go into the retaining ring holes. This was an old pair of internal retaining ring pliers that I had, so rather than grind down on my new set, I figured I'd grind down on this one. And then it turns out the angle on them was too extreme. I couldn't get on it. So I come in here to bend them, and surprise, surprise, hardened metal breaks instead of bends. So let's see if I can't just tack this thing back on here. Doubt it's going to work, but never know, right? Might work. I'm definitely no welder. I've only had this welder a few months. I think this is maybe the third time I've used it. But I like metal fab. I'd like to learn a lot more and get a little better at it. But in the meantime, stuff like that I'll have to do. Alright, let's try this out again. Well, I got it out, and it took off flying somewhere. I don't know, it's probably halfway to the Atlantic by now. So let's just hope the new one's the same size. Now, to get this seal out, I'm reading that the best way to do that is to remove this return line, plug it off, and crank the truck over. We'll cover this up with a rag, crank the truck over, and when it pumps fluid, it'll pop the seal out. So I'm going to read a little bit more here real quick and figure out if that's legit or not. So I'm wondering if I could just, if air pressure would be enough, if I just blew some air down in here. But I don't know if it'll booger up anything else inside here or not. I don't really know. So Let's see what I got. Alright, according to the service manual I found, and I'll put a link in the description, you should be able to take the return line off and just use compressed air to blow that seal out. So that's what we're going to try here. And this hose clamp is rotted pretty bad, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that off there or not. Pretty bad off. Well, at this point, I might as well cut it. Alright, let's give this a shot. It's not budging. Well, would you look at that? Well, I honestly don't know that that seal's leaking. I don't see anything coming from around the seal when I put air on it. But if you watch right here, watch right here when I put air on it. I can't imagine that's right. Which would explain, because as you watch it come out, it runs down along here and right underneath where you would think the shaft seal was leaking, but as I was removing water and dust seals, that was dry. So now I gotta figure out what the hell that is. Alright. Alright, so this is the pressure relief valve. Now, technically it's relieving pressure by leaking out here, but for some reason I don't think that's right. So let's see if we can get that out of there. Alright, so you see what I did here. I found a piece of copper tubing that was slightly larger than this relief valve and coated it with JB Weld, put the copper tubing over top of it, and then sealed around it with the JB Weld. Now, I know what you're probably thinking is that's not the right way to do things. Well, I had this inclination to do this just temporarily so I can move this thing around for now until I find a replacement gearbox. And then I was talking to some people and they asked me why I didn't just do this. I was like, well, I did do it temporarily. I said, oh, that JB Weld will hold it. So we'll see how it goes, but I have every intention of getting a whole new gearbox. We'll see if this thing leaks or not and see how it goes. Maybe I won't have to replace it. So I'm going to slap this thing back together, just like I said, so I can move it around a little bit. Need a new one. Well, I didn't have a new one, but I was able to rob that bad boy off of off an old field sprayer in the scrap bin. All the new ones I have are 2 or 3 inches, so this will work. Oh, that one fit. That's good. Alright. As you can probably remember, the old one went flying. And I still have not found it to this day, so... Now this dust seal, or I'm sorry, water seal that came with the kit does not look like the old one. So I don't know. We'll see. I'll put a little bit of grease on it. Back here in that groove, imagine that's how it's supposed to be. Hole was a little bit smaller than the old one. y'all have to keep in mind that this truck is not going into service at this point, so I will be putting a new bolt and lock nut on here before I put it into service, because I might have to take this the gearbox off yet. So we'll see how that goes. All right, we say we give this thing a shot. Yeah, check the fluid first. Steering wheel doesn't want to turn sitting still like this. I don't know if it just needs to work some fluid in or not, so I'm going to let the tanks fill up with air so I can release the brakes and back this thing up a little bit and see if it'll start turning or not. What do you think chances are the brakes being seized up? Rolling free. It's not working. Not working. Alright, so after putting this all back together, and patching up the steering box, the power steering is just not working at all now. I topped the fluid off when I first started it up, but I just checked it again now that it's been sitting for a little while, and it's low. So I'm assuming everything's just cycling through and filling up. So I'm going to top that off, and I'm also going to jack up the front end and try to bleed the system off, since I did blow the air into it and had the lines off. So we'll see what that does. So this is going to be a learning experience for me, trying to put the front end in the air on this. I don't have a big truck jack or anything. I'm going to try my regular 4-ton floor jack and pick one side up at a time and set it on stands. And I'm working outside in the dirt here, so I got some steel plates that I'm going to use to try to keep everything from sinking in. So let's see how it goes. Alright, so my big jack stands were too tall. I didn't want to jack it up that high. So I used some wood blocks here, crib it up a little bit on the one side, and then I'll just leave my jack under the other side. I'm not going to be working underneath of it or anything, so I'm not too concerned, you know, about it drifting down a little bit or anything like that. I just need to have the front wheels off the ground so I have the weight off the steering. So that's what I ended up doing there. So now that I've topped the fluid off, we're going to go ahead and start it up and cycle the wheel back and forth, full lock to full lock, and see what that does. I left the cap on but not tight. Well, it sucked down a whole quart, and that's all I had left. And kind of dumb of me, but I just had the notion that I should probably check and see what this thing actually takes for power steering fluid. I was just using what the previous owner gave to me, and I should know better by now than take somebody's word for it. So I'm gonna go check the manual, see if it has anything in it on what this thing should take. Alright, so the stuff the previous owner gave me to top off the power steering fluid was just power steering fluid. And I looked in the manual, and this actually calls for automatic transmission fluid. So I'm flushing the system now to get that half quart or so of the other stuff out of it. And we'll top it off with the right stuff. Alright, I had to strip down some layers. It's about 50 degrees today. Big difference past couple of days. It's been sub-zero. So went over to the parts store, picked up another gallon of Dextron 2 equivalent automatic transmission fluid. Top this off. I'm going to start it up, cycle it through, bleed it off, and see how it goes. Feel a difference. I didn't see check the fluid here. It's right there in between the add and max limit. Cycled it through quite a few times. I think it feels pretty good. We'll set it back down on the ground and see what happens. Alright, so I think it's safe to say this is fixed, for now at least. You know, it might have been kind of a pointless video because I didn't actually have to replace anything. And I've always kind of had the motto that anybody can fix anything you know, with some tools and motivation, anybody can fix it. The problem that I run into, and you know, this is why mechanics, you know, are valuable, is that diagnostics. I have such a hard time with diagnostics. Once I find what's wrong with something, fixing it's usually not a problem. But figuring out what's wrong with it has always been kind of an issue for me. I always end up getting it done. I rarely ever pay somebody else to fix something. I can't say I never do, because there have been times where I've had to pay somebody to come in and figure out what was wrong with it. Especially on these diesels, because I don't know, it's been about 7 years since I bought my first diesel, and I didn't know anything about them. You know, honestly, I didn't know how they worked. I started learning as I went, and I'm still no diesel mechanic or anything like that, but I'm managing. You know, I'm getting it done. I have a real good buddy. He's a pro. Guy can work on anything, fix anything, and you know, he's always real busy. But fortunately for me, you know, if I need him, I can usually get him to take a look at something for me. As far as this gearbox goes, you know, it's not leaking anymore, and it's working just fine. So, you know, the real test will be getting it out on the road and getting it going. So that's coming here real soon. I have a few more things I want to do, and she's going to be ready to go. So I'm just going to go ahead and end this video now. Hopefully I didn't waste too much of your time. Hopefully it was somewhat entertaining or informative. I don't know. I enjoy doing this, and enjoy making these videos now too. So hopefully everybody else does. All right. See you next time.